The bereaved Tycoon's identical daughters refused to rest until the humble housekeeper performed an act that transformed their lives. On a Monday afternoon at 2 o'clock, Elena Vargas ascended the stairs of the grand mansion, toting her cleaning supplies and hearing a deeply sorrowful sound. It was the wails of two infants echoing throughout the entire residence. Elena, age 25, had been employed as a maid in this opulent home for 3 weeks, yet she could never adjust to the heartache. The twin infants had been sobbing for a solid 3 hours that day. The previous day, it had lasted 5 hours, and the day prior 6. "Oh dear, these little ones," she murmured softly, pausing on the staircase to wipe perspiration from her brow. Victor Reyes appeared in the foyer, appearing disoriented at 34 years old. This affluent entrepreneur seemed to have grown a decade older in recent weeks. He had shadows beneath his eyes, disheveled locks, and moved like a ghost. "Marta," he summoned, and the household supervisor hurried over. "They have not rested properly for over 2 months." Over 2 months. Marta, 50 years old, who had loyally served the family for 2 decades, shook her head with regret. She always documented everything she observed in the residence in an aged notebook. "Sir, you must get some repose as well. You cannot continue like this." "Repose?" Victor emitted a bitter chuckle. "How can I repose while listening to my daughter's wails like this? What sort of father am I?" "Marta." Elena halted her ascent. The anguish in that man's tone profoundly affected her. She had miscarried a child a year earlier at 4 months gestation and understood the agony of witnessing a child suffering all too well. Victor grabbed the telephone, his fingers trembling. "Doctor, it is Victor Reyes once more. I realize I contacted you earlier today, but my daughters are in dire straits. There must be something you can do." The response on the line heightened Victor's anxiety. "What do you mean you are out of options? We have consulted a pediatrician, a neurologist, an infant specialist. I have expended more funds than I possess, and nothing succeeds." He slammed the receiver down and struck the wall forcefully with his fist. Marta rushed to him. "You must not injure yourself either. It is futile, Marta. I am a terrible parent. I cannot even soothe my own daughters." Elena observed everything with a heavy heart. She had never witnessed a man so utterly shattered. His torment was genuine, profound, and intense. The twins' cries intensified from their nursery. Isabella and Gabriella, 3 months old, were grappling with an enigma no one could decipher. "If they do not improve soon, I cannot endure it," Victor whispered, his voice laden with emotion. At 3 p.m., Victor dashed out of the residence, pushing both infants in their stroller. "I'm heading to the clinic again," he shouted to Marta. "They have developed a fever from all the weeping." The grand mansion's gates closed, and the home finally fell silent. Elena exhaled in relief, not for her tasks, but because those tiny children had a moment of peace. "Poor darlings," she muttered, completing her journey upstairs to tidy the upper level. Upon reaching the twins' nursery door, she hesitated. The atmosphere still carried the scent of infants mingled with medications. 2 small cribs, pastel decorations, and miniature toys in use because the girls wept too much to engage with them. Elena knew she should not enter. Victor was stringent about who accessed his daughter's space, but an inexplicable pull drew her inside. She lifted a tiny, pink outfit adorned with little bunnies, clutched it to her chest, and closed her eyes. The memory of her lost child pained her immensely. "My little cherub," she whispered. "If you had been born, you would be their age." After 90 minutes, the sound of the gates closing snapped her from a reverie. Victor was returning. Elena hastily attempted to exit the room, but stubbed her toe on the dresser, causing a fragrance bottle to tumble. "Oh no!" She knelt to gather the shards when she heard footsteps ascending the stairs. "The physicians are a loss," Victor shouted to Marta. "They claim the girls are healthy, yet they will not cease weeping." He entered the nursery, cradling Isabella in his arms. The infant's face was flushed from excessive crying, her tiny features swollen, her little fists clenched. "Papa does not know what to do anymore, my precious," he murmured gently, swaying her. "Papa is lost." Gabriella in her stroller was also wailing, a piercing sound that grated on the ears. That is when an extraordinary event occurred. Elena, still crouched and collecting glass fragments, glanced at Isabella and, without forethought, extended her arms. "May I cradle her briefly?" Victor, utterly exhausted, did not hesitate. He transferred the baby to Elena's hold. Silence descended immediately. Isabella halted her cries as if a switch had been flipped. Her swollen eyes widened and fixed on Elena's face with a curious, serene expression that left Victor speechless. Gabriella in her stroller also quieted. She turned her tiny head toward her sister and Elena, as if sensing a shift. "Hush, little one," Elena cooed gently, rocking Isabella. "What was distressing you?" The infant shut her eyes and, for the first time in over 2 months, truly slumbered. "I cannot fathom it." Victor scooped Gabriella from the stroller. The child calmed instantly when he brought her close to Elena. "How did you achieve that?" "I am unsure, Mr. Victor. I simply sensed I had to hold her." Marta appeared at the doorway and nearly stumbled. "My goodness, how did you manage that?" These girls do not cease weeping even in their dreams. But Victor was already perceiving it. He stood there, witnessing the improbable scene unfold before him. "Elena," he whispered, "I have sought a solution for 3 months. I have invested vast sums in specialists, and you just there slumbering." Elena concluded, her eyes moist. Truly slumbering. The trio remained silent, observing the twins rest peacefully for the first time. Isabella in Elena's embrace. Gabriella in her father's lap, but positioned near the maid. That is when they heard resolute footsteps on the stairs, footsteps that instilled dread in everyone. "Victor," a woman's voice resonated through the corridor. "I am here for the girls' examination." Dr. Lydia Voss appeared at the nursery door like someone accustomed to commanding obedience. At 38, she was the type who commanded respect merely by entering a space. Immaculate white lab coat, perfectly groomed hair in a tight bun, posture rigid like a perpetual authority figure. "Victor, how are the girls?" She halted mid-sentence upon seeing the scene. The twins slumbering. Victor smiling for the first time in months, and a maid cradling Isabella as if it were commonplace. Lydia's smile froze on her lips. She had tended to this family for 3 years. 3 years cultivating a connection, biding her time to approach him more intimately. And now, a mere maid arrives and accomplishes what she, a seasoned physician, could not. "Victor," she stated calmly, "may I converse with you momentarily in the corridor?" "But Lydia," observe how tranquil they are. "In the corridor, please." Victor sensed her gravity and instructed Elena to remain with the infants. He stepped out, following the doctor. "Victor, do you comprehend what just transpired?" Lydia whispered, with restrained fury. "What?" "She soothed my daughter to sleep, Lydia, for the first time in 3 months. And do you know this woman's history? Do you know if she harbors any illnesses? Do you know if she engaged in anything hazardous?" Victor appeared concerned. He had not considered that. "Lydia," she merely held Isabella. "And Victor, I have been a pediatrician for 15 years. I understand the vulnerabilities of these times. 3-month-old infants are extremely fragile. Any contamination could lead to severe issues. But they are fine. Lydia, see how peacefully they slumber now. But what if it is a chemical residue? What if she applied something to their skin? What if it is something that will cause harm later?" Lydia's words planted seeds of doubt in Victor's weary mind. He had always trusted her counsel. Lydia had rescued the twins during their premature birth. She was a renowned expert, a family acquaintance for years. Inside the nursery, Elena gently cradled Isabella, who slept soundly. Marta watched Gabriella, who was also resting serenely in her stroller. "Child," Marta whispered, "how did you do that?" "I am unsure." Mrs. Marta. I just felt compelled to assist. In 20 years here, I have never seen anything like it. These girls do not stop weeping, even in slumber. And now, behold, she gestured to the infant's genuine repose, gentle breaths, relaxed features, unclenched hands. It is a miracle. It truly is, Marta concluded. In the corridor, Lydia continued to amplify the uncertainties. Victor, I know your desperation, but as a physician, I cannot permit an untrained individual to handle such delicate infants. It is about responsibility. But Lydia, consider if something occurs to them. Imagine if they develop an adverse reaction, an infection. You would never forgive yourself. And I, as the overseeing doctor, would not either. Victor ran his fingers through his hair. His fatigue impaired his judgment. What do you suggest I do? That she refrains from touching the girls for their safety. For now, I will adjust their medications. Perhaps that is what was required. Inside the nursery, Elena felt a shiver. Something was amiss. Isabella stirred slightly in her arms, but continued sleeping. Mrs. Marta, she whispered, does the doctor always administer medications to the girls? Daily, child. She claims it calms them, but it never truly did. And today, has she administered it yet? Not yet. She just arrived. Elena began to ponder. The twins had slumbered without any medications, merely with her nurturing touch, her embrace. That is when Victor re-entered the nursery, his expression stern. Elena, he whispered, thank you for your assistance, but Dr. Lydia is right. It is preferable if you do not touch the girls anymore. Elena felt profound sorrow. But Mr. Victor, they are well. I know, but it could be dangerous. You are not a physician. It might have been coincidence, or it might be something that will cause harm later. Elena gently placed Isabella in her crib. The baby continued sleeping. I understand, Mr. Victor, but her eyes conveyed otherwise. She comprehended nothing. She knew she had aided those children, and now she was being dismissed for it. Lydia entered the nursery with a smile that did not reach her eyes. I will administer the girls' medications now, she announced, retrieving 2 syringes from her medical bag. They are slumbering, Doctor, Marta noted. Precisely. It is the optimal time to administer the treatment. They will rest even more deeply. Elena observed everything. An unsettling sensation grew in her chest. Something about those syringes seemed off. Pardon me, she whispered and exited the room. In the corridor, she overheard Lydia muttering to herself. That individual nearly ruined everything. Tuesday, 6 a.m. Elena arrived at work with a heavy heart. All weekend, she could not cease thinking of the twins. Had they rested? Were they okay? Upon entering the grand mansion, she heard exactly what she anticipated and dreaded, weeping. Isabella and Gabriella wailed in their nursery louder and more despairingly than before. It was as if they had regressed, but worse. They barely rested all weekend. Marta informed her upon seeing Elena. The employer is devastated again, and the doctor's medications. She increased the dosage, said it was necessary to compensate for what occurred on Friday. Elena appeared alarmed. Compensate for? Why would she need to compensate for the twins having rested? At 7 a.m. precisely, Dr. Lydia arrived today. She was different, more resolute, more authoritative. Where's the maid? She inquired of Marta. She is tidying the living room. Doctor, summon her here. I need to converse. Elena ascended the stairs, her heart pounding. Lydia waited in the corridor, arms crossed with a frigid gaze. Elena, correct? Yes, doctor. I need to clarify one matter explicitly. You absolutely must not touch the children in this residence. They are premature infants, vulnerable. Any improper contact could introduce a harmful infection. But doctor, I merely provided assistance. You did not assist. You created a complication. The girls were agitated all weekend because their systems were disrupted. Disrupted by what? Inexpensive fragrances, cleaning agents, bacteria. You clean houses, do you not? Your hands harbor microbes that could endanger infants. Each word from Lydia struck Elena like a blow. The doctor spoke with an authority that allowed no questioning. Do you understand clearly? Do not touch the children. Do not enter their nursery. If I discover you disobeyed, I will recommend Mr. Victor dismiss you immediately. Yes, doctor. Good. Now, I will attend to my patients. Lydia entered the twins' nursery and closed the door. Elena remained in the corridor, humiliated and uncertain. Had she truly done something wrong? Had she inadvertently harmed the babies? Inside the room, Lydia withdrew a syringe from her bag, but it was not the one Victor had seen in the container. This one contained a transparent liquid that was anything but soothing. Now we will rectify this minor issue, she murmured, injecting the substance into Isabella's bottle. The liquid was a mild stimulant, flavorless, but it kept infants irritable for hours. Lydia had administered small doses for 3 months since the twins' birth. Her scheme was straightforward. Keep the children dependent on her treatments, render herself indispensable to Victor, and at the opportune moment, discover the cure and win his gratitude. But on Friday, a simple maid had nearly thwarted 3 years of planning. Today, Lydia doubled the dosage. The twins would endure a terrible week, and when she altered the medications again, Victor would be profoundly grateful to her. There, my little darlings, she whispered to the infants. Papa will realize only Aunt Lydia can care for you. Isabella and Gabriella consumed the tainted bottles unwittingly. In an hour, the effects would commence. In 2 hours, they would wail louder than ever. Outside in the corridor, Elena scrubbed the floor, hearing the cries that were already escalating. Her heart ached, but she was forbidden to act. She had been ordered not to. At 10 o'clock, Victor returned from his business and found his daughters in a state worse than ever. Lydia, he shouted into the phone. They are dreadful. What medications did you provide? Calm down, Victor. It is typical. Their systems were disrupted due to Friday's contact. Now I am correcting that. It will worsen before improving. Worsen, regrettably. Yes, but trust me, I have been a physician for 15 years. I know my craft. Victor hung up and collapsed into the armchair in the room. The twins had wailed for 4 consecutive hours. It was Tuesday, and they had not rested well since Sunday. They will perish if this persists, he murmured to himself, his voice filled with profound despair. In the corridor, Elena overheard everything and felt tears stream down her cheeks. She knew she could help. She knew the twins would settle in her arms, but she was prohibited from touching them. That is when she noticed something that heightened her suspicions. In the bathroom waste bin, she spotted an empty vial of infant sedative, the same medication the doctor claimed to administer to the girls. If she administered the sedative, Elena thought, why is the vial discarded empty in the bin? And why are the girls deteriorating? The seed of suspicion began to sprout in Elena's heart. Something was wrong. What if the individual tasked with caring for the twins was actually harming them? The infants' cries permeated the grand mansion like a plea for help, a plea that only Elena seemed to recognize, but one she was forbidden to heed. They will perish if this continues, Victor shouted into the phone to Lydia. And for the first time, Elena wondered, was that precisely her intention? Wednesday midday, Elena labored on the ground floor of the grand mansion, hearing the twins' cries, which had not ceased for 8 consecutive hours. It was a sound that pierced her soul, especially since she knew she could alleviate it. Marta appeared in the kitchen with her notebook and a concerned expression. Child, may I speak with you? Of course, Mrs. Marta. I believe what is occurring is highly peculiar. The girls only improved when you cared for them on Friday. Then over the weekend, they were worse than before. Elena paused her cleaning and regarded the household supervisor. You found it peculiar as well. And there is more. Marta glanced around to ensure privacy. I have been employed here for 20 years. I have never seen infants cry this excessively. So it is not normal. No, it is not. And another detail that caught my attention, the doctor now visits daily. But before the girl's birth, she only came when the employer summoned her. Elena's pulse quickened. She was not imagining it. There truly is something amiss, Mrs. Marta. You record everything in that notebook, correct? Yes, I do. It is an old habit. I note arrivals, departures, times. Can you show me the times the doctor arrives and when the girl's crying worsens? Marta flipped through her notebook. See here. Monday, the doctor arrived at 7 o'clock, administered medication at 7:30. The girls began wailing intensely at 8:30. And yesterday, Tuesday, the doctor arrived at 7 o'clock, administered at 7:15. The girls became distressed at 8:15. Always an hour after the medication. Always. But that must be normal, right? Sometimes treatments take time to take effect. Elena frowned. If the medications are meant to soothe them, why do the twins worsen afterward? Mrs. Marta, have you noticed what medications the doctor discards? What do you mean? I found empty vials of infant sedative in the bathroom bin. If she is providing sedatives to the babies, why are the vials empty in the bin? Marta appeared thoughtful. Now that you mention it, it is odd. Why discard and use medications? That is when they heard hurried footsteps on the stairs. Victor descended, his hair tousled, his shirt wrinkled. Marta, where is Lydia? I telephone her, but she is not answering. She has not arrived today, sir. The girls have been wailing intensely for 8 hours. 8 hours? Marta, they will have seizures if this continues. Elena felt her chest constrict, seeing his distress. Mr. Victor, she whispered, may I offer a suggestion? What? What if you attempted withholding the medications today, just to observe any difference? Victor stared at her, as if she had proposed something outrageous. Elena, they are in this state precisely because they require the medications. Lydia said their systems are, what was her term? Disrupted. Her standard medical bag and a small insulated bag. Mrs. Marta, did you see that insulated bag? Yes, I did. Do physicians bring insulated bags to patients' homes? Not that I know. Standard medications do not require special refrigeration. Victor appeared in the kitchen, looking much improved compared to recent days. Marta, I cannot believe the girls slept through the night. Yes, sir. That is excellent, is it not? Lydia said it is due to the new medications working. Elena and Marta exchanged glances. They knew it was not the medications that worked, it was the absence of them. Mr. Victor, Elena ventured, do you not find it strange that they improved only when they skipped the evening dose? But they did receive it. Lydia adjusted the formula. But you yourself mentioned you forgot to administer it last night. Victor paused and reflected. That is accurate. I did not. I was so fatigued. And they improved. Mere coincidence. Mr. Victor. Marta interjected swiftly. May I offer an observation? Of course. In 20 years here, I have learned to observe. And certain things are raising concerns. What things? The doctor always tampers with the medication before leaving it, and the girls always deteriorate exactly 1 hour after consuming it. Victor frowned. Are you implying that? I am not accusing anyone, sir. I am merely reporting what I observe. At that moment, the twins' cries resumed from upstairs. Isabella and Gabriella had awakened and were already becoming distressed. Very well, Victor sighed. I am going to administer the medication. Mr. Victor, Elena spoke urgently. What if we tried once more without it, just to confirm? Elena, please, only for today. If they worsen significantly, you can administer it immediately. Victor felt conflicted. On one hand, Lydia's medical advice. On the other, what he witnessed firsthand. All right, but if they become truly ill, I will give them the medication. Elena felt a glimmer of hope emerge. Perhaps today they would uncover the truth. At 10 a.m., something remarkable occurred. The twins, who had awakened crying, gradually calmed on their own, without medication, without intervention, just with their father's affection and routine care. I cannot believe it, Victor whispered, gazing at his serene daughters. Do you now believe there is something wrong with that medication? Elena inquired. Victor was about to respond when the telephone rang. Victor, it is Lydia. How are the girls? Are they okay? Good. Did you administer the medication on schedule? Victor glanced at Elena and Marta, who shook their heads. No. Yes, I did. When Victor hung up, Elena knew he had deceived Lydia. Why did you deceive her, sir? Because I want to verify something before accusing a physician of what you two suspect. And how will we verify? Victor remained silent for a moment. We will test the medication. Thursday, 2 p.m. Victor, Elena, and Marta were in the kitchen, examining the medication vial Lydia had left. How shall we test this? Victor asked. My sibling works in pharmaceuticals. Marta said he can analyze it discreetly. But that will take time. There's another method. Elena interjected. We can monitor the girl's behavior with and without the medication throughout the day. How so? Simple. We divide the day into 2 segments. In the morning, they go without medication. In the afternoon, when the doctor visits, we administer it and observe the change. Victor considered the proposal. And if they become unwell, we stop immediately and summon another physician. All right, let's attempt it. All morning, the twins remained calm, had regular bowel movements, fed well, and napped appropriately, the behaviors of healthy infants. At 2:30, Lydia arrived for her afternoon visit. How are my little patients? Well, Victor replied, scrutinizing her. Excellent. The medication is functioning perfectly. Then Lydia ascended to the twins' nursery. Victor, Elena, and Marta remained downstairs waiting. 30 minutes later, Lydia descended. Done. I administered the afternoon dose. They will be very calm now. As soon as Lydia left the residence, the 3 hurried upstairs to the room. The twins were in their cribs, appearing normal, but Victor noticed something. Look at their eyes. Isabella and Gabriella had eyes wider than usual, slightly glassy, as if perceiving non-existent things. Is that normal? Victor asked. No, Elena replied. A typical infant does not exhibit that gaze. 15 minutes later, precisely on cue, the crying commenced. But it was not a typical infant cry. It was a distressed wail from someone experiencing discomfort. Now I am convinced, Victor declared, his voice trembling with rage. She is harming my daughters with medications. What shall we do? Marta asked. We're going to expose it. Victor picked up the telephone and called a trusted physician he knew. Dr. Bruno, it is Victor Reyes. I need you to come to my residence urgently to examine my daughters. No, it is not an emergency, but it is crucial. Can you come today? While Victor was on the call, Elena heard an unusual noise in the garden. She peered out the window and saw Lydia standing behind a tree, surveilling the residence. Mrs. Marta, she whispered. Look out there. Marta looked impaled. She's spying on us. Why? Because she knows we have discovered something. At that moment, Victor hung up. Dr. Bruno is arriving at 4 o'clock. We will know definitively what is in the girl's blood. But they were unaware that Lydia had overheard everything through the open window and was already devising her next move. At 3:45, 15 minutes before Dr. Bruno's arrival, the telephone rang. Victor, this is the local police station. We received a disturbing report about your residence. What kind of report? Someone claimed one of your employees is administering potent drugs to your daughters without prescription. Victor froze. That is untrue, officer. We must investigate. It is protocol, but we are en route. Victor hung up and looked at Elena and Marta with alarm. Someone reported us. Who? Elena asked, but deep down, she already knew the answer. 20 minutes later, 2 police vehicles pulled up in front of the Graham mansion. 4 officers proceeded to the twins' nursery, where they found Victor, Elena, and Marta tending to the crying infants. Who is the employee responsible for the children's medical care? The officer inquired. No one, Victor replied. A physician handles it. We have information that this woman, he pointed to Elena, has been administering drugs without authorization. That is false. That is when Lydia appeared at the door with another officer. Officer, As I reported on the phone, I discovered evidence that this employee has been dosing the children. She opened her medical bag and produced a vial of potent drugs. I found this concealed in her residence. Elena was astonished. That is not mine. I have never seen that vial before. And I also found this. Lydia presented a document, her notes on dosages. Victor seized the paper from the officer's hands. It was a forged prescription for Isabella and Gabriella, signed by Dr. Elena Vargas. Elena, Victor whispered, "How could you?" "Mr. Victor, I swear I never composed that. I do not even know how to draft a prescription. I am not a physician." "Ma'am," the officer stated, "you must accompany us for questioning." "No, I am innocent. She planted those items." But as Elena was led away, Lydia approached Victor. "I'm sorry, Victor. I know you trusted her, but I could not allow your daughters to be at risk." Victor gazed at the twins, who continued crying, and at Lydia, who now seemed the only trustworthy person. He did not notice the subtle smirk of triumph on the doctor's face. Friday, 8 a.m. Elena awoke in a chilly police cell after a night that seemed interminable. She had spent hours explaining to the authorities that she was framed, but no one believed her. "Vargas inmate," the officer barked. She rose, hoping to see Victor or perhaps Dr. Bruno, who could vindicate her. But it was her mother, Senora Carla Mendoza, her face flushed with embarrassment and fury. "Mother," Elena whispered. "Do not call me mother." Senora Carla exploded. "How could you commit such an act? Harming innocent infants with drugs." "Mother, I did nothing. The doctor framed me." "Cease your fabrications. It was in the newspapers, on television. Everyone in our neighborhood knows you forged a prescription." Elena felt her world crumble. If her own mother did not believe her, who would? "Mother, please listen to me for a moment. I do not wish to hear anything. You have disgraced our family. Your siblings cannot even step outside. But I swear, I am dead to you. I never want to see you again." Senora Carla departed, slamming the door. Elena collapsed onto the cell floor and sobbed, as she never had before. In the mid-afternoon, the public defender arrived to confer with her. He was a fatigued man who appeared to have handled numerous similar cases. "Elena, I will be candid. The situation is dire. They have substantial evidence against you. But I am innocent. Look, forging a prescription is a grave offense. It can result in 2 to 8 years imprisonment. Someone planted those items. The doctor orchestrated it. Do you have proof?" Elena fell silent. How could she prove anything from within a cell? "And the children?" she asked. "How are they?" "That is not my concern. My role is to defend you against the charges. Supposedly, well, legally, you are innocent until proven guilty, but the evidence." He did not need to complete his sentence. Elena knew even her own lawyer doubted her. At night, an elderly female inmate approached her in the cell. "First time here. Hope it is the last. Everyone says that. What crime?" "They accuse me of forging a prescription to dose babies with drugs." The woman grimaced. "Harming children is severe in here. If you truly did that, I did not. I adore those children more than anything. Then someone truly framed you, and they did it expertly." Elena spent another sleepless night thinking of Isabella and Gabriella. Were they weeping again? Had Lydia resumed dosing them with potent drugs? Had Victor noticed anything? Saturday morning, the news she dreaded most came via guard. Those infants you harmed with drugs were rushed to the hospital overnight. Elena's heart stopped. What? They're in the intensive care unit with convulsions and a very high fever. The doctors believe it was an overdose from the drugs you administered. Elena screamed and rushed to the cell bars. "No, I did not administer any drugs. Release me. I must tell someone." "Quiet down. You are not going anywhere. They are going to die. You do not understand. It is the doctor who is killing them." But no one listened to them. She was just another criminal evading responsibility. Elena slumped to the cell floor, weeping bitterly. Isabella and Gabriella were dying, and the one who could save them was confined in prison. Outside in the hospital corridors, Victor paced frantically like a madman. His daughters were connected to machines, battling for life. How did this happen, Lydia? He asked for the 10th time. Victor, I warned you the maid was dosing them for weeks. Their bodies accumulated the substance, and now they're experiencing withdrawal. But they were improving. That was the drug's effect. Now that we have ceased it, their bodies are reacting adversely to the cessation. Victor accepted the explanation because he had no alternative. Lydia was a physician. She knew what she was saying. What he did not know was that at this very moment, Lydia was administering even larger doses of stimulants to the twins. Her plan was straightforward. Make the infants so ill that he would wet her out of desperation and gratitude when she finally cured them. In prison, Elena received another devastating update. Vargas, your case is national news. You're the most despised woman in the country right now. And it was true. The tale of the maid who harmed a wealthy man's twin infants with drugs was on every broadcast. Her image was in every newspaper and website. Furious mobs assembled outside the police station, demanding justice. Baby poisoner, someone shouted from the street. Imprison her. Elena cowered in the corner of her cell. Her existence had become a public horror, while the true culprit was hailed as a savior for attempting to rescue the children. But the worst was knowing that while she was trapped in a cell, Isabella and Gabriella were perishing in the embrace of the one who had truly dosed them. God, she whispered in the cell's darkness, if you exist, protect these children. They do not deserve this. And by some miracle, across the city, someone was beginning to question aspects Lydia had not anticipated. Sunday, 6 a.m. At Holy Cross Hospital, Victor had not left his daughter's side for 36 hours. Isabella and Gabriella were in the intensive care unit with monitors displaying alarming readings, a persistent fever, and frequent small seizures. How are they? Victor asked Dr. Santos, the pediatrician overseeing their care. Stable, but still critical. We will receive the toxicology results tomorrow morning. Until then, we will maintain hydration and monitoring. Their bodies must expel whatever it is naturally. Victor rubbed his face. 3 days without proper sleep, without meals, unable to focus on anything else. Lydia arrived with a cup of coffee. Victor, you need to rest a little. I cannot. Look at them. Lydia, I know it is difficult, but they will recover. Trust me. How can you be so sure? Because I recognize this type of drug toxicity. I have encountered similar cases. And what Victor did not know was that Lydia was fabricating. She had never encountered a similar case because she had engineered this one. Marta visited the twins. As a family employee for 20 years, she had obtained permission. How did they fare overnight, sir? Poorly. Very poorly, Marta. And Elena, you have not visited her yet. Victor shifted uncomfortably after what she allegedly did. Sir, may I offer a thought? As someone who has known the family for a long time, speak. I observe Elena with these girls. I saw how she tended to them, the affection she showed. That young woman would never harm a child, but the evidence. Evidence can be fabricated, sir, but a heart cannot, and her heart for the girls was pure. Victor fell silent, contemplative. Deep down, he harbored doubts as well. Marta, do you think I should speak with her? I think you should at least hear her side. Lydia, who was checking her phone, overheard the conversation and became alert. Victor, she interjected quickly. Do you not think it is better to focus on the girls now? That woman will only distress you further. Perhaps you are right. But Marta persisted. Sir, let me pose a question. Of course. Since Elena was arrested, have the girls improved or worsened? The question struck like a thunderbolt. Victor had never considered it that way. Worsened? And is that not strange? If she was truly harming them with drugs, should they not improve without her? Lydia's heart raced. The question was dangerous. Marta, she responded with medical authority. Drug toxicity does not function that way. The body requires time to eliminate toxins. It is common for them to worsen before improving. I understand. But Marta understood nothing. In fact, her suspicions deepened. "Sir," she whispered when Lydia stepped away, "do you not think you should at least converse with Elena, just to be sure?" Victor gazed at his daughters connected to the machines. "All right, but only to clarify this matter once and for all." What they did not know was that this decision would begin unraveling 3 years of deception. Monday, 10 a.m. Victor sat in the police station's interview room, anxious and weary, but determined. When Elena appeared, he was shocked by her appearance. In 4 days, she seemed to have aged years, gaunt, pallid, with dark circles under her eyes reflecting her suffering. "Mr. Victor," she whispered. "Elena, how are the girls? Why do you care after what they accuse you of?" "Because I love them more than anything on earth." Victor scrutinized her face. He saw no malice, no deceit, only genuine anguish. "Elena, tell me something. If you truly love my daughters, why would you do that?" "Because I did not, Mr. Victor. I swear on my mother's life that I would never harm those children, but they found evidence planted by Dr. Lydia." "Elena, that is a serious allegation." "I know, but it is the truth." Elena recounted everything. How she and Marta discovered the tampered vials, how the twins always worsened after the medications. "Mr. Victor, your daughters only became distressed after she administered the medications. You witnessed it yourself on Thursday." Victor recalled. "It is true. When I withheld the medications, the girls improved. But why would Lydia do such a thing?" "I do not know. I just know she's doing it." "Can you prove it from within a cell?" "How?" Victor departed the police station, his mind reeling. Elena's words resonated, but they were so grave that part of him resisted believing them. Back at the hospital, he encountered Dr. Santos exiting the twins' room. "Doctor, how are they?" "Strangely, they're slightly better today. Their fever has decreased a bit." "Really?" "Yes. If this continues, perhaps we can remove some monitors tomorrow." Victor began to connect the dots. The girls were improving in the hospital, away from Lydia's medications. "Doctor, may I ask a difficult question?" "Of course. If someone was administering a substance to keep infants irritable, would they improve upon ceasing that substance?" Dr. Santos looked serious. "It would depend on the substance, but yes, if it was a stimulant, for instance, they would gradually calm once deprived of it." "And how long would it take?" "About 2 to 3 days." "Why?" "Just curious." But it was not mere curiosity. Victor was piecing things together. At that moment, Lydia appeared in the corridor. "Victor, how are my little patients today?" "Better," he replied. "The doctor said their fever dropped." "That is excellent," she said, but her face did not reflect relief. "Lydia, may I ask you something?" "Of course." "What type of medications were you giving the girls at home?" "Natural infant sedatives." "Why?" "The doctor mentioned they might be improving because they stopped receiving a harmful substance." "Would it not be the opposite?" Lydia grew uneasy. "Every case is unique, Victor. You cannot generalize." "But you just claim to know this type of drug toxicity." "I do, but each body reacts differently." Victor recognized her responses were inconsistent. "Lydia, did you bring any medications to administer today?" "I did, but I will consult Dr. Santos first." "What medications?" "A supplement to aid recovery." Victor did not reply, but resolved to observe more closely. Tuesday, 8 a.m. Dr. Santos called Victor urgently. "Mr. Reyes, I need to speak with you." "Has something happened?" "Your daughter's toxicology results are in." Victor's stomach nodded. "And they show a powerful stimulant in their blood. This stimulant is a potent amphetamine. In infants, it can cause exactly the symptoms your daughters exhibited." "Doctor, where could this originate?" "Only physicians can access pure amphetamines, and based on the levels, it has been administered regularly for about 2 months." Victor felt his legs weaken. 2 months! That was when Lydia began treating them. "Who is Lydia?" "The family physician." Dr. Santos grew solemn. "Mr. Reyes, I must inform you that we will report this to the authorities. This is child endangerment." At that moment, Lydia appeared in the corridor. "Victor, How are my little patients today? Lydia, he said evenly. The doctor wishes to speak with you. With me? About what? Dr. Santos. Doctor, I am Dr. Santos, head of the intensive care unit. I need to clarify some aspects of the treatment you provided the children. Of course. What aspects? We detected amphetamines in their blood. Lydia blanched, but attempted to conceal it. Amphetamines? Impossible. I only administered natural infant sedatives. Ma'am, do you have a prescription for that sedative? I certainly do. She fumbled in her bag longer than necessary. How strange. I must have left it at my clinic. Dr. Santos continued, the amphetamine levels indicate regular administration for 2 months. Can you explain that? It must have been the maid. She was dosing the children, but the maid has been incarcerated for 5 days, and the amphetamine concentration suggests recent administration. Lydia had no retort. Doctor, I will require you to accompany our security. Security? Child endangerment is a serious crime. The police will want to question you. This is an error. I am a respected physician for 15 years. Precisely why it is more grave, Dr. Santos replied. Victor, who had listened silently, finally spoke. Lydia, look me in the eyes and tell the truth. Did you administer amphetamines to my daughters? Victor, I would never. Look me in the eyes. Lydia attempted to meet his gaze, but failed. I can explain. Then explain, but instead of confessing, she attempted to flee. I need to retrieve the documents from my clinic. I will return shortly. You're not leaving. Dr. Santos said security has already been alerted. That is when Lydia realized escape was impossible. Tuesday, in a hospital security office, Lydia sat among Victor, Dr. Santos, and 2 police investigators. She still denied everything. I never administered amphetamines to these children. She insisted. Doctor, one investigator stated, we have the toxicology report. We have the father's testimony. And we have your constant presence in the home during their drug-induced illness. Mere coincidence. Do you have an explanation for the amphetamines in the infant's blood? It was the maid. The maid cannot access medical amphetamines. Can she? Ma'am? Lydia fell silent. Victor could no longer tolerate it. Lydia, for heaven's sake, stop lying. My daughters nearly died. I did not intend for them to die. The words slipped out before she realized. It was the first crack in her story. So you admit administering something? The investigator asked. Lydia recognized her mistake and tried to retract. No, I meant no one intended their death. That is not what you said. Yes, it was. Victor stood, agitated. Lydia, you are a physician. You know lying during an investigation worsens your situation. I am not lying. Then explain why my daughters only improved when they stopped your medications. They did not improve. Yes, they did. On Thursday, when I withheld your medications, they slept all night. Was that coincidence? And here in the hospital without drugs, they improved daily. Lydia was cornered, but still resisted. That is when Dr. Santos intervened. Doctor, we have the hospital surveillance footage. You were recorded administering something to the children last night during shift change. Lydia panicked. What footage? The intensive care unit is monitored around the clock. We want to know what you administered at 3 a.m. Lydia tried another falsehood. It was saline. They needed hydration. Saline does not need to be concealed from nurses. Why did you not inform them? Lydia had no answer. The investigator leaned in. Doctor, we will make this straightforward. We know you administered amphetamines. We have evidence. The only thing we need now is the motive. Lydia scanned the room. Victor with hatred in his eyes. Dr. Santos shaking his head. Investigators waiting. She knew it was over. She began, her voice quivering. Speak, Lydia, Victor whispered. At least you owe me that. I did it because tears began to flow. Because I love you, Victor. The room fell utterly silent. I have loved you for years, since your wife passed. And I thought, if I cared for the girls, if I became essential, you harmed my daughters with drugs for love. Victor whispered, incredulous. It was not to harm them. It was to make them need me, to show you I was vital. Vital? You nearly killed them. The doses were calculated small. I am a physician. I knew what I was doing. And when Elena calmed them, I had to increase it slightly. She was going to ruin everything. Increase. You escalated the drugs to my daughters out of jealousy. Lydia sobbed heavily now. I love you so much. I waited years for an opportunity. Victor rose, trembling with fury. That is not love, Lydia. That is madness. It is love. Everything I did was from love. Love does not harm innocent children. I did not mean to harm them. I just wanted you to love me. The investigator signaled his colleague. Doctor, you are under arrest for attempted murder and medical malpractice. As Lydia was led away, still proclaiming her love for Victor, he remained in the room, shattered. Doctor, he said to Dr. Santos, I must retrieve someone, an innocent person imprisoned for a crime she did not commit. Go. Your daughters are safe now. And for the first time in months, Victor knew it was true. Wednesday, 10 a.m. Victor was at the police station, navigating paperwork and procedures. Even with Lydia's confession, releasing someone from custody was not simple. Mr. Reyes, the police chief, stated, Ms. Vargas will be released today, but the charges against her will only be fully dropped in a few weeks. And can she remain at home until then? Yes, she can. And compensation for her suffering? I will address that later. For now, I just want her out. At 11:30, Elena finally emerged from the cell. 5 days that felt like 5 years. She carried a plastic bag with her few possessions from the arrest. Upon seeing Victor in the lobby, she halted and stared intently. She did not smile, showed no relief, only profound exhaustion and deep resentment. Elena, Mr. Victor, you are free. Lydia confessed everything. I know. The police chief informed me she was the one harming the girls with drugs. You were right all along. Elena laughed, but there was no joy in it. Yes, I was right, but you trusted her for months and me not for a single day. The words wounded Victor deeply. Elena, I know I erred. Erred? She shook her head. Mr. Victor, you destroyed my life. My own mother declared me dead to her. It was broadcast that I am a child poisoner. I will rectify all this. How? How will you undo 5 days of torment? How will you restore my mother's affection? Victor had no response. Mr. Victor, thank you for securing my release, but now I just want to go home and rebuild my life. And the girls, they miss you. Elena paused at the station door. How are they? Improving daily. Without Lydia's toxic drugs, they are recovering. That is good. Elena, please return to care for them. I cannot. Why? Because I no longer trust you. And she departed, leaving Victor alone on the sidewalk, realizing regaining her trust would be far harder than he imagined. First month. After a week of persistent efforts, Elena finally agreed to return, but with strict conditions. I will return, she told Victor at her doorstep, but not as a maid, and I will not reside in the grand mansion as you prefer. I will care for the girls during the day and return home each evening. All right, I want double my previous salary. It could be triple, and you cease attempting to discuss personal matters with me. We are employer and employee. That is all. In the initial days, their interaction was frosty. Elena arrived promptly at 7 o'clock, tended to the twins with utmost devotion, but treated Victor as if he were invisible. Good morning. Good morning. Did the girls sleep well? Yes, they fed at 5 o'clock. Thank you. And nothing more. The twins, however, flourished with Elena's return. It was as if normalcy had resumed for them. They slept better, ate better, smiled more. But Elena was not well. Victor noticed she had nightmares. Sometimes she cried out in her sleep on the living room sofa during the girls' nap time. Other times, she froze at the sound of siren. Elena, are you all right? I am fine. You appear sleep-deprived. My nights are not your concern. One afternoon, a journalist appeared at the Grand Mansion's door. May I speak with Elena Vargas? Elena paled. I will not speak to the press, she whispered to Victor. Allow me. Victor went outside and addressed the journalist. When he returned, he found Elena trembling in the bathroom. They have left. What if they discover my address? What if they appear at my mother's home again? Victor saw she was experiencing a panic attack. Breathe deeply. No one will harass you. How can you guarantee that, sir? Because I will hire security for you. I do not need charity. It is not charity. It is my obligation. I caused this predicament. It was the first time Victor fully acknowledged his fault in what had transpired. Second month. The routine remained strained, but Victor observed subtle shifts. Elena was still distant toward him, but occasionally she forgot and responded more conversationally. How was the girl's weekend? Isabella is attempting to crawl. She keeps pulling herself across the playmat. Really? Is she not a bit young? Each baby develops at her own pace. She is adventurous, just like you. Elena realized the conversation had strayed beyond professional boundaries and grew cold again. I will prepare their puree. One day, Victor returned home and found Elena weeping in the garden while the twins napped. Has something happened? Nothing you need to know, sir. Elena, you're crying. Something occurred. I went to the market this morning, and everyone stared. An elderly woman told her grandchild I was the woman who poisoned babies. Victor felt his chest tighten. I am so sorry. Sorry does not help. The damage is done. I will give an interview. I will clarify everything. And do you think that will help? That people will stop viewing me as a monster. Victor did not know what to say. Elena, let me help. You have helped enough. That night, Victor contacted a prominent journalist and scheduled an interview for the following week. If he created the problem, he would attempt to mend it. Third month, Victor's interview was well received. He narrated the entire story, accepted blame for believing Lydia's lies, and publicly apologized to Elena. Elena Vargas is an honest, diligent woman who was victimized by a corrupt physician. I erred by doubting her when I should have trusted her. I publicly beg her forgiveness for that. Some media outlets published articles on the case, presenting the alternative perspective. Gradually, public opinion began to shift, but at home, Elena remained aloof. I saw your interview, she said one morning. It was decent, but it does not alter what happened. I know, but it is a beginning. That same month, something significant occurred. Senora Carla appeared at the Grand Mansion. I wish to speak with my daughter. Victor summoned Elena, who tensed upon seeing her mother. Mother, I came to beg forgiveness. Elena did not respond. Mother, I came to beg forgiveness. Elena did not respond. I saw his interview on television. I knew you were truthful from the beginning. You did not believe me when I needed you most. I know, and I'm deeply sorry. Sorry does not restore the days I spent alone in prison. Elena, please. You're my daughter. I love you. You declare me dead to you. Senora Carla began to weep. I spoke foolishly. I was angry, ashamed, but you will always be my daughter. Elena wept too, but still could not forgive. I need time, Mother. How much time? I do not know. I just know trusting anyone is not easy now. Fourth month. Elena finally agreed to Sunday dinner at her mother's home. It was the first step toward reconciliation. How are the girls? Senora Carla asked. Wonderful. Isabella is crawling, and Gabriella is trying. And does the employer treat you well? He does. I have no complaints. Elena, may I offer a thought? You may. I see in your eyes that you care for him. Mother, there is nothing wrong with that. He is a good man and widowed. He is my employer, and I am an employee. So what? You are an honest, diligent, kind woman. Any man would be fortunate to have you. Elena fell silent. For months, she had not viewed herself as a woman, only as the twins' caregiver. At the Grand Mansion, Victor was also evolving. He began noticing Elena more, not just as his daughter's nanny, but as a person. He admired her compassion, dedication, and intelligence. One afternoon, he found her teaching Isabella to clap. Come on, little one, clap your hands. Isabella giggled and attempted to mimic, but her tiny hands missed. She is learning quickly, Victor said. They are very intelligent, Elena replied, both just like their father. Elena halted playing with Isabella. They are not my daughters, but you care for them as if they were. It is my job. It is more than a job. Elena met his eyes for the first time in months. What do you mean, sir? I see how you regard them, how you nurture them, how they beam when they see you. That is not merely employment, Mr. Victor. And I see how they regard you. To them, you are a mother. I cannot be a mother to children who are not mine. Yes, you can. A mother is one who nurtures, who loves, who is present. Elena fidgeted with Isabella's toy. Why are you telling me this? Because I want you to know I hold you in high regard. It was Victor's first tender gesture. 5th and 6th month. Their relationship gradually warmed. Conversations starting about the twins extended to personal topics. Elena, may I ask something? You may. Did you love your wife? Why do you wish to know? Just curious. Victor pondered before replying. I grew to love her, but it was not love at first sight. How so? The marriage was arranged by our families, but over time, I developed affection and respect. And when she died, I thought I would never feel for anyone again. And now I discovered I was mistaken. Elena's heart raced. Victor, may I finish? She nodded. I discovered it is possible to love deeply, to love someone for their essence, for how they care for others, for their strength. I do not understand what you are saying. I am saying I have fallen in love with you. Elena remained silent for a long while. You cannot say that. Why? Because I am afraid. Of what? Of trusting and then discovering it is a lie. I would never lie about this. You have erred about other things before. I never lied. I just made a mistake, and I learned a lesson. What lesson? That trust is about believing in someone.